Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for the last several years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind our logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the Halloween and horror genre, but does incredible commission pieces of any sort, including graphic novels, by the way. So tonight we welcome Tobias Wayland, and he's going to be here talking about his new book, which he authored alongside Richard Estep, who we also know and love. He's been on the show before. Great guy. And the book, Mothman, Sightings, Investigations of the Iconic Cryptids. You asked, I delivered, and I think beyond that, because of course Tobias has so much more information, far beyond just authoring this book. Now, he's a founder of this Singular Fortean Society, and I'm going to make sure the website gets up in the chat, and I'm going to make sure that we put it up as we go along. And before we bring Tobias on, I promise you a surprise, right? Okay, here it is. I know. Welcome back. Welcome back.
I miss your face so much. Even though I watch it every time you're on air, I just miss this, my BFF.
In months and months and months. So
I know. I
good.
didn't even realize it. Like I didn't.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Need the time. You need the time. Gotta do what you gotta do. The show goes on.
It does, because Michelle is the show. I want to thank everybody for wishing me well. And it's nice when I've been in chat and seeing you guys. Oh my God, it was so exciting, but I didn't want to give it away because I just don't ever know how that day is going to go. But I'm so happy to be here.
So we're going to go step by step, day by day. So,
slowly. But thank you. It feels so good to be here. And it feels like I was just here yesterday, even though I wasn't. Yeah. It does. So hello to everybody and thank you. Everybody bear with me. I'm a little rusty.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Everybody chiming in. So thank you. So guys, remember, we're like a bit of a super highway coming down into one lane. I will flag post. I will periodically put your comments up, and I will just push aside some of the questions, but we do keep up with our guest first and foremost. So that's how it's going to go, as always. And, without further ado, Tobias Wayland. Hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm
welcome.
Doing really well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You come highly recommended. And, after perusing the website and just listening to some of your interviews, I know it's just going to be wonderful. And you're well-versed on many things, many things. Mothman, of course, being one. And, man, where do you start with something like that? You've been doing this a long time. You have your organization. So where do you want to start? You want to start with your organization first, or do you want to get into humble beginnings?
They're somewhat they're somewhat intertwined, really. So if you look at the Singular Fortean Society, well, really,
Yes.
it's just me now. It used to be my wife and I, and she had stepped back, and so we kind of rebranded it from the Singular Fortean Society to a Singular Fortean. But I haven't even updated like my email signature and stuff yet, so it's confusing. But the reason we started that back in 2016 is because we both felt strongly like we wanted to contribute in some way to the paranormal field. And for my part, I felt like the best way that I could do that was through writing, through interviewing witnesses, trying to help them understand their experiences if I could, but then also first and foremost, like accurately and authentically translating their experiences for other people. And the reason I wanted to do that was because of really a series of lifelong experiences that I've had. I began having paranormal experiences when I was very, very young. And as a result, I became interested in these subjects. It was very isolating as a child to have those experiences. And it really wasn't until I was an adult that anybody started taking it seriously. But that, of course, that was decades into it for me. And so when I was a kid, I would go to the library, not to date myself too much, but we didn't have the internet.
I hear you. I hear you.
Right. I'd ride my bike down to the library and I found all these books by people like John Keel and Brad Steiger, Whitley Strieber, Lauren Coleman, all of these different authors. And they were writing about people who had experiences very similar to mine. And it made me feel better. It made me feel like maybe I wasn't alone. And I think it helped me try to begin to process some of the things that were happening to me. There aren't really any firm answers still to this day, but just knowing that I wasn't alone helped a lot. And so if that's something I can help provide, then great.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just pay it forward and, next generation, and you do what you have to do. So many people do feel lost and they don't have the support of their families. I was always told, family secret, don't talk. Neighbors are crazy. We are, let's go.
Who cares?
Did you run into that as a bit of a roadblock growing up? Because I'm thinking of the time where probably, along the same lines, if we're going to the library on a bike. So, did you ever confide in your parents that things were going on?
Yeah, absolutely. My experiences started when I was very young. So, 2, 3, 4 years old. And I have a good relationship with my parents. They've always been good parents, but they didn't really believe anything was happening. They thought that it was a child's imagination. Most of the events would be at night. Like it was a lot of nighttime visitation kind of stuff. And so I learned pretty quickly that it was pointless to go wake up mom and dad, because that was just going to make them mad, and they were going to tell me to go back to bed because I was being silly. And monsters aren't real, but what was coming and grabbing me at night then, if monsters aren't real, right? Like what was lifting me out of bed?
Wow, that's something.
So,
it's scary.
Yeah. Did you put it off? Was it paranormal, or was it like ET? Was it ET experiences?
I don't know. That's
wow. Because they're all intertwined.
Because right. I mean, one of the reasons that when I discovered Keel and then through Keel discovered Charles Fort, that I was so enthralled was because of the connections between phenomena that they were discussing, right? Because I've never been able to put my experiences into one category. I've seen shadow people. I've had nighttime visitations. I had, this is an interesting experience. So when I was in my early 20s, this was one of the most impactful. And I think it's one of the ones people most enjoy hearing about because it's just bonkers. I was in my early 20s and I had moved back home briefly, and I was in my bedroom. I'd gone to bed normally, fallen asleep, no issues, whatever. And I remember waking up very, very suddenly, and there was no immediate reason to me why I should be awake, right? Like no bright light. I didn't hear a noise or anything. I just was suddenly awake, and I could tell right away that like something was weird. I wasn't paralyzed or anything, and I could look around. So I did, and I realized that my perspective was skewed because I seemed to be floating several feet above my bed. I wasn't under the covers like when I had gone to sleep. Instead, I was on top of the covers, floating several feet above my bed. And so I turn to my left, and I see this figure standing there, and it just looked like an all black silhouette of a man, like no features, but seemingly solid. And in that moment, I had the distinct feeling that I wasn't supposed to be awake for that, right? Like I wasn't supposed to be awake for this. This was a mistake. And so I look at this thing, and like I said, I wasn't paralyzed. I feel like I could move, but I decided it probably wasn't a great idea to move given what the circumstances were.
Yeah.
And so I
just thing. be like
right?
Play posse. Yeah. Right. Don't move.
And so as I'm looking at this thing, I turn my head to the left. I look at it, and it reaches its hand out and puts its hand on my chest. And I always interpreted that as sort of being comforting or something, but I don't really know if that was its actual intention or not. And it puts its hand on my chest, and then I'm lowered back down to my bed, and it just vanishes. And that was the end of that experience, and I just laid there for a while, and I thought about what had happened, and I wasn't going to go wake my parents up, like that was pointless. And I wasn't real scared because by that time I had figured out like, well, if they were going to hurt me, I'd be hurt by now, right? Like physically, if they were going to hurt me.
Yeah.
And so there just wasn't much for me to do about it. And so I just laid there for a little while, and then I went back to sleep. But how do you categorize that? If you're into ghosts, you might say, oh, well, that was a ghost, or that was a spirit. If you're into UFOs and alien abduction, you might say, oh, well, you were abducted by aliens or something. But I have no idea. Who knows really, right? Like it's just a bizarre, unclassifiable experience.
I agree. Like, many of my experiences, paranormal as a child, I can look back on now as an adult and a researcher and say, you know what, there's that fine line between, extraterrestrial contact and, the supernatural, the paranormal. And I started questioning, what was I really in communication with? And then luckily, as I got older, my mother was always the one I can go to. My father was just the one that was like, house is settling, nothing's going on. But yet as an adult, my dad's like, oh yeah, all this stuff happened. And I'm just like, you made me feel like I'm just a brainless child that did not know what was happening to me.
He was protecting you.
Sure, we'll go with that. But but it's just, no, we just don't want to admit he had a weird kid. But things were happening. Now I can go back and say, like yourself, I think there was a blend of both, and they cross over right down to smells and sounds, and it's like, oh yeah, we always had like UFOs up there. I grew up northern Canada; they're everywhere, and ET, things like that, and it's still happening. So where do you go with that? I think as an adult, you can rationalize it a little bit more, but are you any more prepared? Like, do you find now that you can reflect back on your experiences and knowing the things that you know now, do you feel like, yeah, I'd be okay with that, or I have a better understanding?
Sure. Well, I definitely, I don't feel the fear I did when I was a small child, and that honestly, that fear lasted through most of high school. That has long since gone. I still get startled sometimes if something happens very suddenly. Like I had in experience, this would have been probably a few years ago. It was just before we bought our new house. And Emily and I were in bed, and she was asleep, and I heard her say something, and so I was lying on my stomach, and I like turned over onto my back, and then like looked at her, and because she had said something, I was like, did you need something, sweetheart? Like what's going on? And it turns out she was just talking in her sleep. She does that sometimes. And so I figured that out almost right away. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is pointless. And I rolled back over, and I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go sleep. And as soon as I rolled over onto my stomach, I saw this hand, and it was so strange. It looked like this sort of black scaly hand, and I saw it reach up into my field of vision, sort of from behind me, but like parallel, right? Like up to where I could see it. And when that happened, I felt this old familiar feeling of hands, like multiple pairs of hands, like sets of hands, digging into my sides, like they're gonna lift me up. And I'm not ashamed to say, in that moment, I did freak out a little bit.
Yeah,
I did. Like there, I had a visceral reaction.
Well, you're in your safe place, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well,
you would think, but you know better in a way too, right? Like it's
right. Oh yeah. I mean, at this point, like there's no place that's safe, is what I've learned. And so I started frantically sort of hitting these hands that I felt. And when I did, I could feel that I was connecting with something, right? Like I was hitting something solid. And so as I'm doing that, I see the hand that had come up. It just retracts. Like it goes right back where it came from. And all of a sudden it's just all gone. And I'm just hitting air.
That's wicked. When you make contact, it just makes it just became real. Right.
Yeah, when you feel it, when you physically feel it. Yeah.
Well, especially when you were younger, you only had you to be concerned about. Now you've got to worry about the safety of your wife, who's right next to you and not picking up on any of this. So I would imagine that would contribute tremendously to, escalating that fear even further. How did you recover from that when it went away? You probably couldn't fall asleep.
It took me a little while, but I did. It was another one of those where I laid there for a while, and because of I think sort of the nature of the reaction, it was more being startled, and just kind of a autonomous reaction, right, where your instincts kick in and your heart starts beating, and so. Once that all settled down, eventually I did, but I wasn't going to wake Emily up, I didn't see much point in that.
Of course.
And honestly, like she hasn't been affected by a lot of this stuff. Like we've had experiences together on investigations where we've both seen the same thing. But as far as like, I guess if you want to call it my personal haunting or whatever it is, she hasn't really been affected by that, which is great,
Which is, well, a lot of times you hear those stories where the spouse is in this dead solid sleep, and the other person is being abducted or is having, paranormal experience like sleep paralysis, but at that point you realize, I'm sure, like, I've got a new house, I've moved, and it's still happening. So you kind of
it's not that I grew up in a haunted house. I'm haunted by whatever it is.
Yeah, it's you. I think it's just you're a contactee. That's the way it goes. And people, I think, who have ET experiences do go on to have very. I always say, being paranormal lives. Being a paranormal experiencer as well. Like they just really, it's a matter of which came first. It's like the chicken and the egg thing. Researchers would be just, well, what came first? Which one happened first? Because they're just so interconnected, and you just realize as the experiences happen how they just keep crossing over one another. That was a hard one for me. Just sat back and kind of went, is it just everything I thought it was? It's just not. It's just something bigger, or it's just, and I've had cryptid experiences too. So you just start to realize, it's like, what is it about you right?
Yeah.
And this is in my mind. What is it about me? Like, why am I experiencing all this? Some people never experiencing. Can I speak? Never experience anything. Gosh, in their entire lives, at least, or they may not be
Right.
aware of it. But then you get those who are experiencers and just everything.
Yeah, it is. It is strange, and I'll say I think that it's likely, to me at least, that there is sort of an initial phenomenon, like something happens to people when at some point in their lives, and I thought it was interesting that you said that they maybe didn't realize it, because I think that often it'll take some initial phenomenon, something that people can't ignore. You can't explain it away. It's not something you can just sweep under the rug and forget about. For them to start, kind of for them to have the scales fall from their eyes, basically, right? And then at that point, they might see something else, and they're like, well, maybe that wasn't just the wind. Maybe it isn't the house settling, right? Like maybe I should look into this a little deeper. And then when they do, they might find some real mystery there.
Yeah.
Like
which
that,
you clearly
that
did.
Might be it, because right.
I think a lot of people are saying maybe I shouldn't right now. Hearing your experience, they're probably going, oh, maybe I shouldn't look into it. I mean, Tobias did, and that's going through my head. I'm speaking for a friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
because
get
you're a
it.
researcher
honestly,
now.
like that.
Yeah. I'm glad that you did, though. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to have this great conversation with you. So I'm glad you dug into it. How does I'm going to ask, if it's too personal, just tell me, how does your wife cope with it?
Well, I mean, she handles everything really well.
Good.
When we first met, at that point, I was determined that I was going to make sure, like, anybody I dated knew, like, what I was into. Like, that had to be like first date conversation. So, I was just like, just so you know, like, I've been a UFO field investigator. I write about this stuff. This is what I'm into. And she was cool with it right away. Actually, she told me about this cool ghost light, the Paulding light up in the UP that I had never even heard of. So she right away, like off the bat, knew something that I didn't even know.
That's great.
And so she handles it really, really well. Yeah. I mean, it's the only way it could possibly work. Because, I dated a lot of women before her who weren't really interested in this stuff. And I think all of them were like, well,
that's it. Yeah.
Right. They were like, well, we can talk him out of it. Like it's fine. Like, that's just something we can work on, his interest in the paranormal.
So meanwhile, it's like, don't call me, I'll call you kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think those people who are experiencers, and as much as you've experienced, ultimately you're going to end up in the field, or all fields, in one form or another. And you seem to have found, the way to do it. And now you find yourself, are you still an experiencer of all this stuff, even though, now that you're researching it, like, you're still having experiences?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Some of those, like the last nighttime visitation that I had mentioned. I mean, I was in the midst of like researching and writing some of the Lake Michigan Mothman stuff at that time. And as I was writing that book, and as I was doing research for that, I had some strange experiences. I had an incident where I was out walking our dog, and it was evening time, and we kind of lived halfway up a hill, and I was at the bottom of the hill, and he was sniffing around doing his thing. And I turned around, because I was always looking around, because we lived in the middle of a city, and I wasn't worried about crime or anything, but my dog is very excitable, and so if he sees a stranger, he's going to want to meet him, and it's a whole thing. And so I always tried to have my head on a swivel so I wasn't caught off guard by that. And so I looked up the hill, And it was the strangest thing. I saw there was a community center, and then across the street from that was a park for the community center. And it had a chain link fence around it. And I looked up at the top of the hill, and between the chain link fence and like this tree were they looked like tall, hooded and cloaked figures. And I looked at them and I was like, wait, that's weird. Like, why, who would be dressed like that? That doesn't make sense. And then as I look at them for a couple of seconds, they just vanish, right? Like they're just gone.
Okay, so you didn't walk towards it, right?
No, I'm just standing there looking at them, trying to figure out what I'm looking at, and then it's just gone.
It startled you. It must have startled you.
I'd be like, hey,
what the hell's following? Yeah, Michelle would walk into it.
Wait a minute.
I'd be looking at it, trying to figure out this. I'd be looking the same, like, do I have time to run? Would go through my head. And if I run, would I catch its attention? But yeah, I'm just curious. I want to make sure I'm not the only, weirdo that wouldn't.
Well, I mean, normally, yeah, I don't care. I'll walk right into it. But like like they had just vanished seemingly, right? And and it was so odd, but it was consistent in sort of this ongoing theme of observation that I've noticed about these experiences. It's like I've been being watched, observed by something. For whatever reason, I could only guess at the actual motivation. And then this was just another aspect of that, like maybe I wasn't supposed to see it. Who knows?
Yeah, it's just, were they in silhouette? In silhouette, yeah, at the treetops.
No, they seemed like they were standing, like just standing on the sidewalk. So there's like a tree, and then there's like a chain link fence, and then they're just standing like on the sidewalk where my head is, but like just between so those two objects.
Oh,
yeah, very visible as to what. Yeah.
Did you have a feeling at that moment what it could be, or you were just left pondering like, what the hell?
I still question what all of it is, really.
Yeah.
I think in that moment, what I was thinking was, okay, is this related to the things that have already happened to me, or is this something else? And because they were sort of dark, cloaked shadow figures, which is something that I had seen before, I think I would lean towards an extension of the ongoing phenomena that I've experienced, and not necessarily something new, due to like researching Mothman or something similar. But
pick your battles,
maybe
Tobias.
Time travelers.
Yeah, pick your battles.
Right.
Possibly. Could it possibly be time travelers? People sometimes see them as shadows. The time travelers?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, think about, if these are, say, four-dimensional beings or something, and they are capable of observing time like we do space, and could travel through it as easily as we walk across a room or something, and they view time as sort of this infinite series of events all happening simultaneously, then who knows? Like,
that's so cool,
things
Tobias.
that right, like things
so cool.
to them might be happening in a consequential order that seems in total disarray to us, that we can't possibly make sense of.
Tis the world of high strangeness, for sure. It's a lot of speculation. So you decided to start, I guess, what made you decide to get into cryptids per se? Did you have a cryptid experience of your own?
Chance, basically. Just dumb luck. I got into Mothman because it's true. Like, I had read John Keel. Yeah, I mean, I'd read John Keel, and I'd read the Mothman prophecies when I was younger, and I thought it was a cool book. But I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about Mothman after that, until the spring of 2017, when I was writing for our website, and I noticed a trio of weird winged creature sightings from down in Chicago, and I saw that MUFON had a short article about them on their website. And so I kind of picked the story up and wrote a little article about it for our website. I thought our readers would like it. And to be perfectly frank, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I thought that it would be just one of those weird one-off kind of situations where, somebody sees something, crazy somewhere, and then you don't ever hear anything about it ever again. But that's not what happened. Instead, I published this short article, and the next thing I know, I'm seeing all of these reports come in, and they're not coming into MUFON anymore. Like just those first couple did. They're coming into like Lon Strickler over at Phantoms and Monsters. They're coming into a guy named Manuel Navarrete over at UFO Clearinghouse. And so, as a journalist, somebody covering this stuff journalistically, I reached out to them separately, interviewed them both. They both seemed very forthright in talking about the investigation, and they're willing to give me a lot of details while still maintaining people's privacy, which I respected. I still do. And I thought it was really, really interesting. And so I kept covering these reports as they would come out. And next thing you know, people are reaching out to me directly, and they're saying that they've seen stuff and they're reporting it to me. And so it just made sense to kind of combine efforts and share information. And so that's what we did. And, here I am now.
Yeah. It's a journey, isn't it? She said, do you think the Mothman may fall into the category of a watcher because of the theories, I guess, that they're there before disaster, or, because sometimes they're blamed for it, but maybe they're just there to warn. That's another theory. What are your thoughts?
Well, as far as the category of a watcher, I would struggle with that because of the intense fear and terror involved. That seems to me almost like a kind of defense mechanism, and it doesn't seem completely natural in every way. Many witnesses have described it to me as a sort of supernatural terror, and sometimes they'll begin feeling it even before they realize that there is some kind of creature present. I remember hearing the experience of a gentleman back in the 70s in a northern suburb of Chicago, and he had gone out to help his friend jumpstart his friend's car. Like his friend's battery had died, so he goes out to help jumpstart the car. And when they're out there, he's just all of a sudden they both are overcome with this feeling of fear. And so like they start looking around, and they spot up on this building nearby this like the silhouette of this winged red-eyed creature that then swoops down at them. Like they don't waste any time. Like they just get the heck out of there. They jump into the working car. They take off. But what was weird to me about it, most of all, was the idea that they felt the fear before they knew this creature was even present, which to me, like to my mind, speaks to this seemingly parapsychological effect where some hidden sense is picking up on this. So it's not just, I think, necessarily the normal fear that you would expect someone to feel seeing something seemingly impossible in front of them, right? Just from seeing something scary. There might be something deeper to it. And because of that, I don't think the point is just watching or observing people necessarily, because that would seem counterintuitive. Like you would have a harder time watching people if you were just scaring them all the time.
Well, because they tend to follow people. It feels like they just lurk around, dark streets coming in the night, following cars. You can see it's almost kind of stalkerish. But aside from, the tragedy at Point Pleasant, has anyone actually had physical altercation with or interactions with this thing?
It's very, very rare. I've well, the case that I just mentioned, the creature had reportedly swooped down at this gentleman's car, and I guess there were scratches on the car afterward. Those are few and far between. You know, I recently spoke to a Illinois man named Matt Sexton, and he had said that he had encountered some winged humanoid several times while driving truck down in Illinois. And on one of those occasions, he became so frightened by this thing swooping down repeatedly at his truck that he had actually grabbed a 9mm handgun out of his glove box and shot at it several times.
Oh, how did it react?
I don't think he hit it. And he said that it was just gone after that.
Okay, that's what I meant. Like,
luckily,
what did
I don't
it
know
do?
if that.
Sorry. Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah, I don't know if that scared it off or if it was going to leave anyway or what. But after he
didn't get more aggressive.
It was gone.
That's
right.
What I thought, right?
Yeah.
Like that would be my thought. But if I had a gun, I don't know. If I thought it was Mothman, I might walk towards it because I think I love them.
Doesn't seem dangerous, right?
But last time I said that about something, I had issues. I mean, I had experiences. So I'm careful. I don't want to invite anything. Wow. These are phenomenal.
These are the only ones I can find, which of course probably the same. You probably are more aware of these. I think the ones at the top, I'm not sure. There was another one I was looking for from Japan. When their reactor, I guess, went off, their nuclear facility, and it was there again. You know, eyewitnesses said it reminded them of what they had seen in photos from Point Pleasant. So, and there's apparently somebody who maps these things.
Wow, really?
Yeah, but I think here, let me put it up, just so. I don't know, Tobias, if you've seen this. So this is the first one. So all of this apparently are Mothman sightings, which kind of fits in with Illinois and the places that you've mentioned. And then I think from what you're saying might need to be updated. And this is the next one. And I know that there were sightings in Russia. I think in, what was it, 1999? Again, it goes way back. You know, and I'm guessing this South Korea, but there's, I think, what was it, Japan, where that reactor went off? I don't know. So obviously it needs some updating, but yes. But I thought it was interesting that somebody actually took the time to do a map.
Well, if somebody really wants to see one, possibly.
Right. I don't know. God bless the internet.
And if it falls with tragedies that have happened, it all falls in place with the bridge. Like it all comes back to that bridge.
But it goes back even to, you know, I think, and again, the year Chernobyl, 1966, where there was apparently a Mothman sighting up in there.
So it's one of the difficulties in Mothman sightings is, and especially all of the legends that have arisen around them, is knowing what is real and what is sort of urban legend or what might have been fabricated. So when it comes to the Chernobyl sighting, I hate to be that guy, but I interviewed. It's true. I interviewed Richard Hatem. Well, thanks. I interviewed Richard Hatem for this book, and he's the screenwriter who wrote the screenplay for the Mothman Prophecies movie.
Very nice.
And in the course of writing that movie, he wanted some additional like tragedies that he could associate Mothman with for the sake of his story, and so he made some stuff up. Yeah, and so he made up. In association with Galveston, Texas, which of course had that devastating hurricane. And he made up Chernobyl as a place that Mothman had been seen. And it wasn't until after the movie came out that you started seeing rumors of like the Blackbird of Chernobyl and Mothman being associated with Chernobyl. And there still aren't, to my knowledge, any firsthand witnesses or anything. So that's one that probably just arose out of this movie, and there's not necessarily a lot of truth to it, but that's why, I mean, as an investigator, as a researcher, one of the
Mhm.
things that we want to do is we always want to find primary sources, right?
Yes.
So if you're hearing a
Well,
story or something
mm,
and you want to know who the actual witness is, like
I'm just gonna call
it
you.
very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yes. Um,
So
so I mean, not doesn't just show us up as an omen to let you know that things are going on. So when it comes to, let's say, Point Pleasant, let's just go back to the like, was this one of the like the first sightings in your opinion? And do you think it caused it, or do you think it just happened to be there, wrong place, wrong time?
hmm. Well, certainly the 1966 to 67 flap of Mothman sightings in Point
Mhm.
Pleasant, West Virginia, represent some very, very early recorded sightings.
Yes.
In terms of like Mothman's relation to the Silver Bridge, I don't know if there's a real connection there. Certainly, the sightings did take place around that time.
Yeah,
They
because
never
they were
really
there.
stopped.
How many? Yeah, how long were the sightings going on for? A month, 2 months, couple weeks before the disaster?
About a year,
Wow, a
roughly.
year.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah, my dad
Yeah.
never.
So they
different
would have started,
sightings.
Mhm.
yeah, it would have started like November of 66. And then the Silver Bridge collapsed in December of 67. So I guess just over a year. But
Hmm.
they never really stopped after that. You know, like there are still sightings along the Ohio River Valley there.
Mhm.
And so if the Silver Bridge was supposed to be, I guess, the culmination of the Mothman phenomenon in that area, it didn't really, it doesn't seem to be, because it didn't end in anything. Like
Mhm.
people still report Mothman. They still say that
Mhm.
they see this thing hanging around.
Mhm.
And of course, in most of these other sightings, there's no element of tragedy. There's no major disaster. Major disasters happen all over the world all the time, and
Mhm.
nary a Mothman in sight. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that there's definitely something to these sightings. I think people are seeing something that they can't explain, but whether or not
Mhm.
that thing is related to the Silver Bridge, it could have just been a narrative contrivance from researchers at that time. I mean, I
Mhm.
think Gray Barker first floated the idea in his book, The Silver Bridge. And, as everybody knows about Gray Barker, he's an entertaining writer and certainly a fascinating man.
Mhm.
But he loved to spin a yarn. Like that was his
Yeah.
thing. And he didn't see anything wrong with making stuff up or
Mm.
embellishing things to make for a better story. He just didn't.
It sells.
And
Sounds
Yeah.
like the government.
yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
right.
Can I ask a question? Sorry,
Sure,
I've
of
been
course.
holding on to this one because I've never asked anybody this, and I'm curious because you've done so much research. Did you find that in your witness accounts and people that you spoke to that the description stayed consistent, or did it change?
That's a really good question. And I think it is, for the most part, consistent, but with outliers. So, generally speaking, I think that you will find most witnesses reporting a 6 to 7 foot tall, dark, usually black, humanoid creature with a 12 to 15 foot wingspan, and then maybe like glowing red eyes or
Mm.
some shade of red. Some people might say orangish red or something, but that's just splitting hairs. And that's pretty consistent. But there are outliers. Like I have heard one-off sightings of everything from scaly skinned sort of bat dragon
Mm.
to a leathery winged Bigfoot, right? And I don't think we should ignore those just
No,
because
no,
they
no.
don't
Mhm.
fit like the sort of core profile or idea of what we think Mothman is
No.
supposed to look like.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But yeah, but they're not strictly consistent with the majority of the reports. Overall, though, I find them to be fairly consistent. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that because I feel like some of those that maybe described to a scaly, perhaps they were much closer to witnessing then someone else who saw it from a distance or out of fear can't give you detail. And some people are just detail oriented, so they are going to catch all those little things. I think it deserves that attention, to keep looking. And then, of course, we don't know hybrids and what else. And
Well, which brings me, to the question, there's a hypothesis that it was, a government experiment gone wrong. And,
yeah.
and it still lurks in the area in some of these old facilities. So again, I don't know if it's just made for TV, like, ooh, or is it actually a theory that was explored?
I have never seen any evidence of it. I think there's never, I've never seen any official record of any Mothman experiments that have surfaced. And I mean, people find weird stuff through FOIA all the time. Like you would think that something would have come out. As much as we know about the CIA's interest in like remote viewing and UFOs and everything else that we found, I would expect there to be some evidence at this point, if it existed. That isn't to say that like it couldn't possibly be, but at the same time, we just don't have any evidence for it. So all we can do is speculate. There have been like those kinds of hypotheses aren't unheard of. Like there is that angle. Some people have talked about the TNT area, which is a super fun site because it's so polluted, having caused a mutation in some otherwise normal animal.
Well, a lot of paranormal investigators go there too and say they've had Mothman experiences in that area in West Virginia, the abandoned facilities up there.
But if it was
sure, I've been there.
Oh, have you? Do you have any experiences?
Oh, sure.
Oh, really?
I saw a weird light. I saw like a weird ball of light that I couldn't explain.
Did you Did you ever measure, sorry, Michelle, the frequencies when you were there to see if something was different in that environment than other locations of sightings?
I didn't take I don't even think I brought my Geiger counter or anything. I probably had an EMF like reader on me. I don't think I used it. I primarily had my IR camera, and was using that to sort of look for like weird heat signatures because it was dark out. And we're on this path next to the concrete igloos, right? And we're facing the direction of where like the road would be, but it's really far away. Like you couldn't see the road from where we were. And I saw this light like farther down in front of us. And I was like, well, that's weird. I wonder if that was like, if that's somebody pointing a flashlight in our direction or something. I have no idea. And so I held my IR camera up, and I didn't see any heat signature. Like there was no human being standing there. Like the light was there. I could see the light. I could see the light with my naked eye. And, but there was no person holding it. And so it's just there for a little bit. And it like maybe moved around slightly and then just like vanished. So that was odd.
Yeah, because it sort of lends to the theory that, there are, I mean, you've heard this with Bigfoot, for example, where orbs are often seen around Bigfoot sightings. And then there's also the connection to the whole UFO thing as well. Do you find the same with Mothman? Is this just a cryptid thing in general, or?
I think it's an anomalous phenomena thing in general. There is a state forest, the Kettle Moraine State Forest here in southern Wisconsin, where I live, that is known for Bigfoot and Dogman sightings. It's in the same area of the state as like Elkhorn, which is the home of the Bray Road Beast.
Yes,
people who are familiar with Dogman have probably heard of that one. Yeah. And so I've been out in the Kettle Moraine State Forest plenty of times. And I've seen some weird stuff out there. I've seen anomalous balls of light. My wife has seen them. Our friends that have gone out to investigate with us have seen them. Our friend Jay Bachochin, a big Bigfoot researcher, he recorded one on his body cam, and it's clear as day. I don't know what it was, but it's some kind of anomalous light. And so they're a thing, they definitely are. They're not, I think, necessarily representative of something like, extraterrestrial craft. They're just not that size. Like
Yeah.
at the biggest I've seen, maybe like volleyball or basketball sized, right? Like not huge. You'd have to be pretty small to fit in there. But there are some competing theories. One of them being that it's a sort of like epiphenomenon, something that is just a result of, say, like interdimensional travel or some kind of incursion or something. There are people who have speculated. I think John Keel was one of these, actually, who speculated that the anomalous lights are actually the ultra terrestrial's true form. And when you see anything else, it's because you're being manipulated into seeing that thing.
Really?
I love that theory. I love John Keel.
Yeah.
He was ahead of his time for a lot of this stuff.
It makes sense though, doesn't it? Like I don't know. Like it makes sense to me. I like that.
But what about I'm gonna put it out there, because I just think it's a possibility. I believe that people are very powerful in their own right with energy, and get into telekinesis and psychokinesis and projections of energy and manifestation. So, could we be looking at, let's say, a sort of tulpa? I mean, even Santa Claus, people look at them as a sort of tulpa. There's all kinds of experiences, even to this day, that people have seen the man in the red suit, and sometimes very hostile when their people are up at a certain time, even with adults. They're investigators that do nothing but investigate the Santa Claus phenomena. And I thought, that's interesting, because everybody says, well, Slender Man, for example. Yeah, for sure. But where I'm going is, if enough people put enough thought and focus into something, I mean, they can manifest something. Do you think that this would fall into that at all?
Maybe. When I was, well, no, I would. Nothing is way off. We just don't know enough to make that kind of determination, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's interesting. When I was writing my my Yuletide guide to high strangeness, like I devoted some time to Santa Claus sightings. I've received a couple of Santa Claus sightings.
That's
actually.
Great.
I've received several Easter bunny sightings, and I know how that sounds.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are serious people, so I don't know.
Yeah. So the whole tulpa
in terms
effect.
of, well, I think that you have to take seriously. I think the idea that human consciousness might be the sort of missing link that that people aren't looking at enough in these experiences, and whether or not that means that we're generating them somehow, or if just consciousness is the medium through which we're experiencing them, I think is arguable. Like for Mothman, for instance, could Mothman be a manifestation of humanity's subconscious fears or something? Sure, totally, 100%. But could it also be a creature or creatures that actually manipulates us through consciousness into seeing something that is a manifestation of our subconscious fears? Also, yes. So
yes, I would totally lean on it. Yes. I just think that, when you put so much energy into something, I mean, you go from sightings to having, these big Mothman festivals, and you just have, I mean, it's become this complete phenomenon in its own right. And yet there are sightings of Goat Man, Owl Man. There are sightings of, there are sightings of so many different cryptids you can't even, as you have the list as long as your body of just cryptids from different parts of the world, and they don't all have staying power. Like, Bigfoot, yes, okay, that's the common. You've got the Loch Ness monster. There's sightings of sea serpents and water anomalies all over the place. But I mean, Mothman, what makes it? Why are people so intrigued with this guy?
I think that I mean, honestly, I think a lot of the interest goes back to Keel and his
Yeah.
Fortean approach to the subject. You know, like there's sort of a running joke, I think, amongst investigators and researchers that if you were to take the Mothman prophecies and strip out everything that wasn't Mothman sightings, it would be like 50 pages long, you know, like it would be like a pamphlet.
Yeah.
So one of the intriguing things about Mothman to people, I think, isn't just Mothman, right? It's the reality to which like Mothman speaks, right? It's all of this other stuff. It's okay. So does Mothman represent the existence of some invisible world inhabited by injured cold and strange lights and anomalous vehicles and men in black and all of this other stuff? Because that's fascinating. I want to know more about that. And I think that's what keeps interest in Mothman.
So another
going.
race.
Because I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
It's all of the possibilities, I think, that the human imagination can come up with as a result of the way that Keel sort of displayed the Mothman phenomenon in Point Pleasant that really keep people going.
Yeah, I think he got closer than most with it. You know, it's just too bad he didn't have enough time to really. I mean, I think it would be more accepted, like right now, in our way of thinking. I think we're more open to a lot of those theories and those ideas that he had. But people, I think, now are more open to even just to extraterrestrials in general. You know, and with technology and computers and the internet, people are actually open when they see something. It's more of a healthy curiosity. They're not so quick to poo-poo it out of the way and say, okay, well, this is just a lot of woo-woo. I don't want anything to do with it. Because, you know, everybody's got a camera phone. Most people have got phones now. You just see things, you're experiencing things, and you're just getting more and more sightings by people who actually want answers. Right.
Well, I've seen too, just in every area of this field, people expressing more interest in things outside of maybe the scope of their specific area. You know, like well, Richard's a great example. So, like, Richard approached me to write this book with him for Llewellyn Publishing. And Richard is traditionally, you know, he's known as a ghost guy. You know,
he is.
Does, like, most of what he does is investigating and researching ghosts and stuff. But, you know, today it's not unusual now to see somebody who might be more well known for ghosts becoming interested in cryptids or UFOs. Richard has a great UFO book that people should check out too. So like that's not unusual. It's not unusual to see, you know, people interested in cryptids being more interested in UFOs, or UFOs being more interested in ghosts. Like,
because they all connect.
People are sort of, yes, exactly. I think people are coming around to the idea of high strangeness and seeing these connections finally. And it's not everybody, but it's sort of a growing movement of people now who I think are no longer limiting themselves to any one specific area, which is great.
Where are the most sightings, you know, modern day sightings now for Mothman, do you think?
Sure. Well, that's from my experience, what I've seen, certainly what's been reported to me, most of the modern sightings that are ongoing are happening in the Midwest. So you think the Great Lakes region. Yeah, I mean, we have received sightings from all over Illinois, up into southern Wisconsin, into like down into like Indiana. You know, after I did Unsolved Mysteries, like I was on Unsolved Mysteries last. Was that last? Yeah, I guess that was last year. All right, time flies, right?
Love
that oh, thanks. And when that aired, we started getting sightings from all over the place, like all over the entire world. South America, a surprising number of sightings. And so, like, I guess it's hard to say definitively. Like, I couldn't say, oh, okay, this area, this is the area where Mothman hangs out, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we just don't know, like, the scope of our investigation, or my investigation, however you want to put it. Just, it couldn't possibly be big enough to know definitively what everybody is seeing everywhere. But
Yeah.
certainly what I'm receiving is mostly stuff from the Midwest.
Which is where I
but-
was going with, yes, to see. So you're kind of in like Mothman territory.
Yeah,
yourself.
according to what we
Yeah.
receive. Now that's the real irony, is I've had all these experiences. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like, I've never seen Mothman, like, not once. I've gone to all these sighting areas. I've spoken
Yeah.
to all these witnesses.
And
You
no
know,
can
unless
do.
those cloaked figures were Mothmen somehow, and the cloaks were wings.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Mothman. I don't know.
That's crazy. Oh, hi, Dolly.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Are there is Mothman in any Native American stories or oral history that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. You know, of course, like, there's the legend of the Thunderbird that exists
Yes.
across several tribes, but that's not really a one-for-one, you know, match with the Mothman phenomenon. So as the Mothman exists today, right? Like, as Mothman exists today, I'm not aware of any like real good match in any tribal legends. But, you know, also I just wouldn't necessarily be, because not everybody in a lot of these sort of verbal storytelling traditions. It's not common to tell outsiders about it necessarily, which I very much would be. So it's possible, but I don't know.
I thought so, because I was checking out documentaries on YouTube, and there was one that started the story with a Native American curse, and I'm like, this is a first for me. I've never seen that before. And I had trouble following it. Did you see it?
It's probably Chief Cornstalk, right?
I don't know, because I was having trouble following it. So it was, I'm like, I've never seen this.
Yeah. Before. Well, it's fine that you've never seen it, because it's not great. Like, the Chief Cornstalk, it's true. I'm sorry.
I love the way you say that. You're like, you sound like my older brother going, "It's okay, honey."
Right. Well, no, it's the Chief Cornstalk curse. It's this old sort of Appalachian folk tale about this.
Yeah.
This Native American leader who was murdered by white settlers, and as a result, there's a curse, and it's just kind of generally used in West Virginia, in that area, for any time any bad thing happens to you. You're like, oh, it's that darn Chief Cornstalk curse. That's why my car's out of gas, or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
putting
like,
all logic aside.
I was watching, and I was having trouble. I was having trouble following it, because it was. I'm sorry to whomever did the documentary. It was hard to believe. I'm like, what do you mean? He said you murdered me. Like, did he come back as a ghost? Like, we're missing points in the story, like tons of points in the story, and it's listed as a documentary. And I'm like, isn't that supposed to be based on fact?
Doesn't feel like a documentary.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
What about mistaken identity?
Sure. So there have been misidentifications, like that. That is the reality of this. And as I like to say, if we don't explain the things we can, why would anybody ever believe us about the things we can't? Right. And so there are a good number of reports, specifically from the Midwest region, that I would be confident in saying are likely misidentified animals. It could be somewhere between 40 to 50% of the sightings out there, which sounds like a lot, but that honestly leaves a ton of sightings that probably aren't misidentified animals. But, you know, for the longest time, when these reports started coming in, I struggled to reconcile these two seemingly like very different profiles of sightings, because on the one hand, we would have these like normally daytime sightings of something flying really far away, and the witness didn't report like any terror or any paranormal qualities or anything. And then you would have these nighttime sightings of something seen very, very close, usually on the ground to begin with, and then taking off into the air. And those witnesses would report this feeling of stark terror. They would report paranormal qualities. Sometimes they would report further paranormal experiences. Maybe they've seen a UFO in the same area. Maybe their house was haunted for like a month afterwards. Who knows? And so it took me forever, because I'm struggling with these, going, how could these be the same thing? They just couldn't be. And it turns out they weren't, right? Because in May, I think it was May of 2018, there was a man bicycling to work in the Pilsen neighborhood of Chicago. And while he was bicycling to work, he noticed this thing in the sky. It's like the middle of the day. Other people saw this thing. That's actually what drew his attention to it. And so he looks up and he sees what he would later describe to me over the phone as either a giant bat or a person in a wingsuit. And because he's bicycling to work, on his bicycle helmet, he's got a GoPro camera. So he very helpfully decides he's going to follow this thing around. He's going to get as much footage as he can. And then he was very charitable with that footage. Like, he sent me the original SD card. With his help, I was able to locate some really good stills of the creature on from his video and blow them up and everything in Photoshop. And I got a great look at it. And it was a bird. It 100% was a bird. How
big was the damn bird?
How big of a bird are we talking?
Like,
seriously? Must have been big. Yeah. I mean, based on its silhouette, I would guess, it could have been something like a great blue heron, which we do have here.
Yeah.
And they have wingspans of upwards, 7 or so feet. And if you live in the city and you're not used to seeing something like that flying around, because while they do migrate through that area, they don't often just hang out in like very urban areas of Chicago until relatively recently, actually, because due to the destruction of their wetland habitat and climate change, they are roosting more often in urban areas. They're coming north earlier, staying north longer. And so I think we've got people in urban areas who, like, the odds of seeing one of these birds around was pretty low before. And so people would go their whole lives without seeing one flying around. But now in these urban areas, there's more and more of them. And so people are seeing them more often, and they're like, oh my God, what is that giant flying monster? But it's just a bird. So, but that's, I mean, there beautiful. Are still, they are beautiful. I appreciate them too, just from a naturalist standpoint.
I hope they don't put those stupid wind turbines out there and end up killing them.
I hope not. Yeah, I haven't seen
those things freak me out, because I feel like they're taking out all these beautiful creatures.
Tobias, have you heard of any Mothman sightings down here in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey? Not the Jersey Devil. Yeah, because it's crazy down in the Pine Barrens.
Yeah, I haven't received any sightings there specifically, but you never know. And I will say this for anybody, interested, if maybe there's been a winged humanoid or a Mothman sighting in their area, I don't think that there's any limit to where the Mothman phenomenon can present itself, because as time has gone on, I have received reports from all over the Midwest, of course, but as far east as like Maryland, as far west as California, up into Canada, like Ontario, down into Texas. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So watch out for that.
Great.
But,
We're in Ontario. Please tell me north.
I would have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm sure it's down
I think I've actually received
going to Detroit, Michigan, because Lake Michigan is one of these spots that you make mention of.
Sure.
right? So,
But we've got sightings from down in like Texas, so all over North America, like all over this continent. But then, like I said, after Unsolved Mysteries came out and people were watching it all over the world, we started getting reports from everywhere. So Central and South America were big ones where people were sending in tons of sightings. So it could be anywhere. And just because maybe nobody's reported it to me from New Jersey doesn't mean that it isn't there.
doesn't
or no one's ever
happen.
seen it.
And there could be so many that go unreported because people have fear, just like
Sure.
contactees
Well, I mean,
and
we
experiences.
have to
like
also look at the fact too, though, that how much of both of our countries, Canada, US, are pretty much unexplored. There are places to hide everywhere. Dense forests, cave systems, tunnel systems,
Yeah, mountains.
mountains, it's like, I mean, you have to ask yourself, where would something like that hide? If John Keel was right, and you can, the whole, multiverse, things are just even coming in and out of portals. The light thing makes sense to me because you could do that as light, as energy. It would be harder to do you think, in a physical form?
Sure. Well, I'm usually, when it comes to stuff like this, I'm much more comfortable saying what I think something isn't than what it is, right? Especially when it comes to Mothman. So when it comes to Mothman is like a any kind of undiscovered biological species, it doesn't add up, right? Because there's no signs of predation where it lives. There's no known habitat for a breeding population. That's exactly right. Like for a breeding population of something that size to exist in the areas it's being seen, there's no way it could go undiscovered. People would see it, right? Like you'd have to see it. So I think you have to start entertaining some more, paranormal explanations or possibilities for something like this to actually exist in the form it's being reported. And so, I think you have to start having that conversation. Maybe there is some kind of energy being, or maybe it exists sort of in the realm of human consciousness. If you think of consciousness as a sort of natural force, or maybe a field even that our brains act as like antennae to pick up. Is it possible that something like lives exclusively within that field, right? And so it doesn't even have a physical reality as we understand it, although it's still capable of interacting with the physical world. There's a lot of strange possibilities for something like Mothman, which again is like half the fun, and why I think people are so into it is because like there's no boring explanation possible for something like Mothman. It has to, if it exists in the way people are saying that they experience it, then it has to speak to some larger, weirder reality.
There's too many witnesses to brush it off. I think it's just, really diving deep into it and seeing what's up with it. Because you do have high concentrations. I will definitely agree in the Midwest and getting into Ohio. Just think about, where you're at. You have the Beast of Bray Road. You can't hide those things. I mean, land between the lakes, down that way, land between the lakes. There are like multitudes of werewolf sightings, dogman sightings, Bigfoot sightings. I mean, so much so that they evacuated the entire area and turned it into like a national park because people were dying. Like, these are big cryptids. They're huge. How do they literally go undetected? Mothman can't be. He's got to be the same size, smaller, I would think. And when you take to the air, that just gives you like a whole other realm of possibilities.
Well, it would make you more visible, I would think, if you had something that with wings that relied. Yeah, well, even so, like aircraft and radar and things. But Dogman is another weird one because biologically speaking, again, Dogman makes no sense. So I'm
It's
not
true.
discrediting anybody's sighting. You know, I've spoken
No,
to
there's
people
a
who have
lot of
seen
them here.
werewolves or dogmen. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
and
we
they're
don't
they're
have.
seeing something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Canada doesn't so much have dogman. I mean, I've heard of one account of the typical dogman. Not that they're not
Uh,
out there, but we have more along the, as even into the Native American culture. It's like the loup-garou. They're like the wolves that walk upright is what they will call them. But they're just taller, lanky. They're not these big, like you guys do everything big in the U.S. It's like this big
True.
dog man. Here we're
Yeah.
just no. So I mean, they are out there, and a lot of I lean a lot towards the indigenous oral history, and the one thing it seems to be that Mothman just isn't on. I mean, like you say, unless they're just not talking, but sometimes in the oral history, it'll be documented somewhere, whether it's on the side of a mountain, and just in drawings and cave art and things like that. But there does not seem to be anything
I wonder if that's because we have so much water.
here. Oh.
Yeah, in Canada, like there's so many lakes. We have lakes within a lake within a lake.
No, they can hide, sure. Right.
Yeah.
It's possible.
There's an
But
island within a lake that's in a lake that's in a lake in the west. Like it's just ridiculous how much seriously people look at me like I've got three heads when I say that. I said,
It's
you can
true.
look
I
that
know.
up. It's true.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
that's what I
We have a few of
wonder.
those.
I
Yeah.
wonder if, some of it, maybe they go back to that kind of isolation where they're aware of what could possibly happen. Obviously, they're not carnivores because they're not
Mm.
hurting anyone unless they're eating animals. I mean, I'd love to know what their diet is like.
Adrian,
Just curious.
If they eat
Adrian.
anything at all, yeah. I mean,
If
maybe it
anything
feeds
at
off
all, if
human
it's
fear. I don't know.
oh yeah, that's a good one,
Energy.
because I was gonna say if it's a spiritual
Energy,
being, it would be feeding off of fear, but then
Energy.
you probably would have
Oh, come
a
on.
lot more
Good old
saying.
planet Earth feeds you a lot. Do you see those towers out there?
I would, yeah, I would think
They're
those
gonna
towers
be
would
well fed if that's what they're doing.
throw them off.
Adrian says, I think some cryptids are lab created. Some maybe don't go that far back historically. Another theory.
Right. I don't know. I mean, some of them might be created in a lab. We sort of touched on that earlier. I
Yeah.
don't have any evidence for it, but I'm open to the idea.
Not yet.
I would need some kind of evidence. But I really like the idea that some of them are more recent, right? Like maybe you don't have a lot of historical records surrounding Mothman because Mothman is a fairly recent phenomenon in that this thing or things that, really just started popping up in the 20th century.
Yeah,
Is 1966 the first sighting that's documented? Is it Point Pleasant, or there's some earlier?
The oldest one I have is from 1957.
Wow.
There's a guy named Gerald I talked to who was down in Braidwood, Illinois, 1957. He was out hunting with his brother and his brother's brother-in-law. So his brother was married and his brother-in-law was with them. They were out hunting. They're walking across a field, and he said he saw, or they all saw, this this humanoid creature with wings sort of swoop down over them out of this tree. There was one tree in this field, and it swooped down over them and flew away, and they lost sight of it. But he said that stuck with him his whole life. And when he spoke to me, it was in 2020. He was an old man, and he said that the reason that he told me about it was he had seen one of the articles I had written, and he wanted to tell somebody about this before he had died. And that kind of stuck with me. I mean, one, because it's kind of a sad story, but beyond that too, like the idea that there are these people out there and they have these sightings and they don't think anybody else in the world has ever seen something like this. So they don't tell anybody, and they just hold on to it their whole life. And maybe they find somebody like us to tell it to, but maybe they don't. And so how
it's
many
a sign of
people
the
are there out
times
there right
too,
now?
though. You didn't go talking stories like that back then.
No.
Oh, sure.
I'm wondering this theory. Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there. What if perhaps after that sighting of the natural thing and it went everywhere in Point Pleasant, the government started to play around, thinking, hey, we can use something like this in a war.
How
And then
they do it with Dogman, apparently. Land Between the Lakes, there have been witnesses about them taking Dogman out in military trucks.
That could be why sometimes
Oh.
people see different, have different descriptions, or maybe where the sightings have changed, or why they could be more recent. We could have a battle of lab and natural and not even know it.
Why do I keep thinking Dr. Moreau?
Oh my gosh, isn't it
flashback
terrible?
to-
I've been away too
Yes.
long. My head's like,
No, you know what? I think with Mothman, it's kind of out there. When I think of Dogman, I go back to some of the ancient texts, of half human and half animals. I mean, you could just look at Anubis. I mean, you could look at a lot of the Minotaur, myths that are not always myths, that, you get into different theories that these were beings from other realms, or that may have been here all along. There's just too many similarities. But again, there's never anything with Mothman.
I believe Mothman.
Or Owlman. I don't think I've ever heard anything.
I've never even heard of Owlman until you said
big
it.
in the UK.
Mothman, for me, honestly, I've said this a million times, because Michelle will say, well, what do you feel? What do you feel? I honestly feel it's interdimensional, and it is an energy, and it can come and go, just like I feel like Bigfoot can walk in and out of portals. That's my thing. And if you think I'm crazy, I'm sorry, because I own it.
Ron Moorhead's totally about quantum. I love the whole quantum thing. I do.
Yeah, I really believe that. And
Tobias,
I guess
I wouldn't discount it. I really wouldn't. I am a person who doesn't lean a lot on belief. I just don't. Like, I don't. Things either exist or they don't, and they don't necessarily need me to believe in them if they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I try to do is I try to keep a very open mind and allow for a number of possibilities, but I don't invest belief in anything without strong evidence. So I am absolutely open to that as a possibility, 100%.
So would you consider yourself an open-minded skeptic, or just?
I mean, that could be fair,
Yes.
Because, but at the same time, like, people hear that skeptic word and they're like, oh, this guy's going to make fun of me, or he's not going to believe me.
You have to.
But that's not
balance.
true.
Yeah, it has a little bit of weight to it, but I feel like you have to be skeptical to do any of this kind of high strangeness research. Or you always, I agree with you in the sense that I'm going to tell you what it's not first, and that's a way that I work in with criminal investigation. So I'm so into that. But with Mothman, I don't know. I'm so drawn to it. It's just in my soul that this is something that perhaps I've seen before, or have encountered in another lifetime. And I just feel like,
so is Annette, apparently.
See? Very
totally
intrigued, right, Annette? Like, just really intrigued by it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It really is. I think that's fascinating that it speaks to people on that level. And in and of itself, I think, is an interesting aspect of this phenomenon. Why does it have that impact on people?
It's bizarre. And to be honest, I didn't even know about Mothman until I saw the film with Richard Gere.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it because I wasn't into cryptids. I wasn't into any of that. I was pretty much trying to hide what I did at that time of the movie. But and then I was just so drawn to it. And it has nothing to do with the fiction. It just, I don't know what it is. It just, Patsy, that's gargoyles. Well, gargoyles, I can tell you, are real.
Well, we'll have to get into, that's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show. But I mean,
it's different.
You come into our homes, you're going to see them everywhere. My ancient relatives. You never know, Wayne. You never know.
I can't even keep up with the chat tonight. So, from a cryptid standpoint, putting Mothman aside, what do you foresee? Well, do you foresee yourself getting into deeper investigations with this, or you're just letting the stories roll in and just sort of what will be kind of thing. Because you know, it's not an easy thing to even capture. At least with Bigfoot, you get captures, pictures, and dog men, but this is pretty elusive.
Right. I mean, you know, when it comes to Mothman, I feel like most pretty much everything really that I have to say about Mothman at this point right now is in this book. And that doesn't mean that I'm abandoning Mothman. I'm still interested in it. I just think that at this point, I have to use what I have learned from this research and take it to the next step. So like my next book that I'm working on right now, actually, just signed the contract for it. I'll be doing it with Llewellyn, and it's on high strangeness, and I want to examine the connections between phenomena. And so, that might mean, you know, more winged humanoids and Mothman, but it's for sure going to mean ghosts and UFOs and alien abduction and other cryptids and all of that stuff, and looking at the connections, some of which we've discussed tonight already. So
yes,
I also want to say I feel like there's more sightings and photos of Bigfoot because there are more people looking for Bigfoot than there are people looking for Mothman.
I mean, you're not wrong. No, it's a really good point, and it speaks to why people like Gerald hold on to their sightings for so long too, because people have heard of Bigfoot. You know, even within the paranormal, not everybody has heard of Mothman. Like quote unquote normal people, they don't know who Mothman is. My parents wouldn't know who Mothman is if I didn't write the books that I do, right? Like they would have no idea. And so people will see it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
I mean, I like my fellow weirdos, but yeah, I don't know. Like I just, like I said, I find them fascinating, and I'm so glad that you're here tonight because I learned a lot.
I'm dying to get into the whole high strangeness thing.
Yeah.
When you get into that, that's going to be exciting.
How long's that book going to be?
I find the connections to be like, that's what I find fascinating. You know, we're sitting here floating around on this place, on this planet, and I don't think people have any real idea how connected everything is. You know, you start talking about the collective consciousness, stuff that we put out there. I believe that you can attract things. You know, the law of attraction, you can attract things to yourself. You know, maybe if you want to see something bad enough, maybe you will. Or are you manifesting it because you want it so badly? Like, there's just so much to the whole, you know, psychological part of it as well. You know, I guess getting into, you know, parapsychology, you know, getting going, I'm going to go all Lloyd Auerbach and everybody right now, but
you know, always talk about that with poltergeist.
Well, there is. It's a projection of energy, right? It's just, there's so many connections that I think need to be explored. You have the paranormal is like this movement that just seemed to have started in the Ghostbuster era, right? And then became this thing that just stayed and got bigger and bigger and bigger. But somewhere along the lines, the research just seems to stop. It hits a brick wall for many, and they just can't get past just that phenomenon, you know. But when you start connecting the dots, you realize like it's a much bigger world within the field.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. And there is a stagnancy to much of the research that exists because people haven't been pushing those boundaries to move this field forward in some time. I mean, there are people out there right now doing good work. I'm not saying that there aren't. But I mean, for a long time, it really did feel like nobody was doing anything new or interesting at all. You had, you know, ghost hunters hunting ghosts and you know, Bigfoot hunters hunting Bigfoot, and nobody was finding anything and nobody was making any interesting connections. And now it really feels like people are paying way more attention to that. And people are way more willing to push those boundaries and use, you know, consciousness techniques to try to contact cryptids instead of ghosts or aliens, like
Well, the CE5.
CE5.
Yeah.
CE5 is great. I've had some really interesting results from doing that.
Yes.
And I would recommend it to anybody. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. If you've got a
I
cell
brought them
phone
in.
and $10.
Yeah, it's telepathic. I've just done it. I've had experiences at our last house just by saying, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready," and that took a lot for me to say. So it goes to show you that if you, but I mean, some people. That's because I'm also an experiencer, right? It would be easier for you, Tobias, because you're an experiencer. You have a very strong connection. But I think for people who it's like going on a ghost tour. If you've never done it or you want to get involved in paranormal, well, you go to events and you go on ghost tours with like-minded individuals, maybe a controlled environment. I feel that's what CE5 does for people who are looking to possibly have an ET experience.
Feel safer.
Right? Working with people, or at least, like you say, having a guided, because you're talking about, is it an app that you can get? I think that guides you through that too.
Yeah. You can get like the actual like CE5 app that is sold by Dr. Stephen Greer, of course, the progenitor of CE5.
Yes.
And I mean, it plays some crop circle tone. This is going to sound silly, but it's not silly.
No, my cousin bought it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It plays like these crop circle tones, and then you go through like a guided meditation, and then you just do something I would like to do anyway that I really enjoy. One of my favorite pastimes, at least when it's warm enough out here to do it. Then you just do some sky watching.
Yeah.
And just see what happens, right? Like, it's very cool.
And you've had good experiences.
I have. This was an event where we were out in the Kettle Moraine State Forest again. Yeah. I was out there with my wife Emily and our friend Jay, and he had brought some camera equipment, and he had his fancy IR camera set up on a tripod, and we do the whole CE5 thing. And then I'm sitting there. We brought some camping chairs and everything, because we're middle of the woods, right? And he calls me over, and he's just like, "Hey, Tobias, like, you should come see this." And long story short, what we ended up with is, and this is recorded, on his camera, is this light that is visible to the naked eye, but wouldn't. Or I'm sorry, there was a light that was visible to the naked eye that ended up being an airplane. There was a light on the IR camera rather that was not visible to the naked eye, and that was very strange because it was visible in IR, but not in any of the not any part of the visible light spectrum. So that was weird. That's and cool. It kind of it like floats across the sky real slow, and then it like gets to this point, and then it moves up, and then it moves down, and then it just disappears, vanishes, which is just strange. And it makes you wonder how much stuff is happening around us all the time that we just literally can't see, because it is happening outside of the visible light spectrum, which is a fairly narrow band. Yes. That represents the things that we can actually see.
It's the same with
I think being out in the forested area, it's hard when you're right in the city, because you have the city lights that just lights up the sky, and then you have to try to get to a spot where you could see beyond that. I grew up north and we'd see them all the time. Dating myself a little bit, but we didn't have satellites. Maybe there might have been one satellite by the U.S. military in the sky in the 70s. But, so when you saw something booking it across the sky, you knew, especially when it's like silent, you're just like, that's really quick. And it stops, takes off, does things. It's just like, but you just don't see as much of that now because there are so many satellites in the sky, so you have to really, I think, train yourself as to what you're looking for. Because it's just too easy now. There's so many things moving around up there. I
know someone, and I won't say their name or how I know them, who lives in Woodbridge, Ontario. Now that's a heavily populated area. It's not sparse or anything like that. That neighborhood is heavily populated. And they were just having a cigarette on their porch. Yes,
I
she
love you.
is. She is. You're really
I'll
good.
go
She's
with
actually
29.
28, Mark. You got it off by 1 year. So, and they were having a smoke on their veranda and had an experience. And they were just completely gobsmacked because they're not the type to even look into this kind of thing. And someone else on that street had experienced it at the same time, just happened to be on their driveway. And that's how they were like, did you see that? Like, what the hell? But yeah. Crazy, right?
That's fascinating.
Place.
Well, yeah, it brings up a point I wanted to make too. Like, you don't have to be an experiencer or a consistent experiencer to have these kinds of experiences. No. Most of the people, the vast majority of the people with whom I have worked, who have had weird experiences, who have reached out to me, they were not interested in this stuff.
No,
they did not have a lifetime of experiences. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Neither were these two. It was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, it can happen to anybody.
And then I got
anytime.
the phone call. I'm like, actually, it was online. So yeah.
I've talked to people
the only two that saw it.
That's interesting too, because there was multiple witnesses who were unrelated, I guess.
Yeah, yes, they're not related, and it's such a dense neighborhood. It's crazy, you wouldn't expect it. And especially with these two who zero interest.
Especially because it's right over Toronto, you know, and that is, you're looking at a city with a couple million people. You're it's all lights. You could see it across Lake Ontario, so it's hard to see. But yet, you look at some of these places that are hotbeds for it. You have the Ontario Triangle, you have the Michigan Triangle, and I lived 30 years in a place with a UFO lookout. All you had to do really is just like one street away and just go. People will go and watch them just going all across Lake Ontario. But you're going back years, I think, again, pre-satellite age, where it wasn't so crazy with
Star Trek and Star Wars. That's all you had. I mean, those days you didn't have internet. There weren't many stories written about this kind of stuff. And I mean, I think a lot of the problem nowadays too is the geography isn't even what it was in school when I was in school. I'm 56 and I'm like, I see what my nieces and nephews, their kids, and I'm looking at it going, what the hell? Is anybody teaching them anything? They don't know where countries are. They don't know anything about the solar system.
Or teach them about cryptids, and they'll be interested in everything.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Good way to teach geography.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My great nephew watches our show all the time. Even when I wasn't on and I was off sick, he was watching Michelle because he just loves everything to do with that. But and he just started grade 9, so.
This is the part where you get to promote. So I'm going to put the book back up and promote the new book. Are you just starting to write the new book, or is that?
Oh yeah. This I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it. It's very early stages, so don't even worry about that high strangeness.
We expect you to book us first.
So that's okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
Book us first.
Tobias will be returning, believe me.
Yeah.
So this is the book. Let me see if I can bring this up a bit. Why is this not?
Yes, this is. I am very proud of this book, and I think people will really like it. So definitely check it out.
There we go. Yes. Okay, and this can be purchased on Amazon. This can be purchased through your website or Richard's website.
It can be purchased anywhere you buy books. The distribution should be wide. So any local bookstore wherever you go to buy weird books, you should be able to buy Mothman.
Yeah, I have to get it because I buy all of Richard's books.
There you go.
Okay, I'm going to put your website up again. There we go.
Sure.
So So you will be returning, and I've perused the website. There's a lot of goodies on there, kids. So get on out there and have a look around. And thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank
Definitely an
you.
eye opener. The Mothman thing. You asked, there it was. But I love how
The
I
best.
love all the connections that we're able to make with it, just with everything. Because you just seem to have had experiences in everything, and yet we've got this guy. Maybe you'll have one after all.
You never know.
Well,
Can't wait to see you again.
yes.
I can't
Well,
wait. You don't have to wait for that book to come back.
no.
Continue the conversation.
Well,
Absolutely. I'd love to.
well, we do have you booked, so we know we're getting you at least another
Right.
one a couple times. So thank you. And to those in the chat room, thank you all. We appreciate you so very much for taking the time to partake. Tuesday night, Beyond the Outer Realm, I guess it's Tuesday afternoon. I'm joined by Luke Eastwood. God, I cannot speak today. For deep and uncensored, yes, it's going to be an uncensored show, guys, into AI, Satanism, end time prophecy, and so much more. That's just safer to not list right now. Wednesday, Joshua Cutchin is scheduled to return. Cannot wait for his book that he'll be discussing, Fourth Wall Phantoms, Reflections on the Paranormal Narrative in Fiction's Becoming Fact. Thursday night, my friend Stephen Bissett comes in to give us some updates on disclosure. And are we really scheduled for ET contact as per the rumors coming this November? Can't wait. He tells it like it is. So anyway, guys, have a terrific weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Good night.